the hot sauce. Bill Buck, give me the hot sauce.
What are you doing, Dragic? Did you not get the memo? Derrick Rose can go upstairs.
Hey, for those of you watching on YouTube, it's a little bit dark in the studio today. It's kind of like the fortunes for the Chicago Bears. My God, was that ugly yesterday on the lakefront. I was there covering the game for Channel 7, and it was just brutal. I mean, such high expectations. Walking into Soldier Field, the fans were hyped. The tailgates were live. People were expecting this great show that the rivalry was going to kind of flip, and it didn't happen. I know you guys watched the game. What were your instant reactions?
I was hyped. I was really looking forward to this game. You know, I thought the Bears would come out with a little bit more energy. It was kind of, I was just like, okay, when is it going to happen? When are they going to turn on the switch? The crowd was into the game. And I understand you get that first quarter jitters out the way. It's the first game of the year. Didn't have a lot of preseason action with the starters, so you knew they were going to be a little rusty. But I tell you what, man, I mean, just watching that game was just so frustrating because they couldn't move the ball. They couldn't hit open receivers. The play calling was awful. Offense and defensive lines were terrible.
Yeah.
We were just talking before we came on the show. Justin Fields was running for his life like he had a pack of wolves chasing him, and then Jordan Love was sitting back there in a recliner and a lazy boy with some Pequod pizza and a Heineken watching the U.S. Open. I mean, they touched him. He got sacked one time, and they only had 3 quarterback hits on him in 4 quarters. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I saw some stats where Fields was pressured 35 times, and the Bears only put pressure on Love 6 times. So that's pretty good discrepancy there. Your guy, Lucas Van Ness, the local kid, got a sack of Justin Fields as well, which prevented what could have been a touchdown drive there.
Should have been 4-yard line, and you go back a few yards. Kid's fast. He's big.
What high school did he play at?
Barrington.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you what, though. They dominated in all phases of the game. Our Bears insider, Mark Grote, is going to join us in just a few minutes to talk at length about what went on with the Bears. But first, we're talking a little bit of basketball. It turned out that the U.S. showing at the FIBA World Cup did not end the way everyone thought. Of course, we told you last week they lost to Germany in the semifinals. But then, they lose to Canada in overtime for the bronze medal, so they come home with nothing. And it's just kind of the same old story. Not a lot of size. They were starting Jaren Jackson Jr. at center, and he was not able to do the job on the boards. They got out-rebounded again by Germany, and that's really what hurt them. Second chance points and just not being able to control their own backboard.
Noah Lyles is somewhere right now.
Yeah, he's been over social media. Yeah.
And really reveling in this loss.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something, America. The NBA, unless you're sending your best NBA players, most likely a lot of these guys are not used to playing international basketball. The NBA has to learn how to adapt to the European style of play because that's what you're playing when you go over and play in these world championships and the Olympics. Unless you're bringing superior talent, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, which the NBA Avengers are getting ready to assemble to go to because I don't think you'll see any of these guys who are on it. Maybe Anthony Edwards, but I don't think you'll see anybody that was on this world championship team playing on that Olympic team because you're going to have LeBron, Kevin Durant. You're going to have like all the big name, got Dame Lillard. You're going to have all the stars come out. I don't think you'll see anybody on this roster that was on this world championship roster play on the Olympics.
Yeah, you mentioned the Avengers assembling. LeBron James on Monday said that he has an interest in playing in Paris next year. His teammate Anthony Davis is probably going to come along. He's going to reach out to Kevin Durant and Steph Curry. This definitely could be a kind of a dream team 2 situation.
Well, I mean, I made a list today on Twitter of what the team could possibly look like if all the stars would commit. I mean, there's so many guys they can pick from, but what they need is versatility. So let's just say they get LeBron, Anthony Davis, Steph Curry, Kawhi Leonard to come play, Jimmy Butler, Jason Tatum, Paul George, Miles Turner, because you need some big guys. I would say go out and get Brook Lopez. Like he'd be one of my big guys that I would take. I wish Steven Adams was a U.S. citizen because I would take him.
Well, they might be able to get Joel Embiid. He has to make a choice.
There might be a possibility. I think he'd rather play on the U.S. team than play on his team. But, you get a guy like Miles Turner, 6'11" guy, can shoot threes, rim protect. He would be a good addition. Bam
Adebayo.
Some bigs that can get out there and switch and play. But here's the problem. And I don't support the pick and roll all the time, the pick and roll defense that the NBA plays, where you're switching, bigs on smalls and smalls on bigs. What you saw in the European game was that, Germany and Canada, these guys know how to play. Serbia, they know how to play and take advantage of switches. They don't just take the first shot that they have. So if you have a guard that has a switch on a big man, the European team is not trying to beat the guy and go one-on-one. He's trying to get an advantage by beating you off the dribble, making you have to rotate 2 or 3 times, and they find their open shooters. Where the Americans are more one-on-one. This is my chance to go one-on-one. I got the matchup that I want, and I'm going to go one-on-one. And they're not even interested in trying to find a better shot. And that's how they play in the NBA, and they trying to play that way in the European ball, and it doesn't work.
How about the bronze medal game? I know some of the guys probably weren't highly motivated in that one on the U.S. side, but Dylan Brooks scored 39 points. I think he made like 8 of 10 three-pointers. I mean, this is a guy that couldn't shoot to save his life in this past season. And I know you said he's probably going to come back and have a really good year for the Houston Rockets. He showed an international audience that he can bring something offensively.
Well, listen, I've said he would be a great pickup for the Bulls. I said that all along, regardless of what happened in the Lakers series and him talking himself into a bad series. The kid can defend, he can shoot, he can score, he can handle the ball, he can do a lot of the intangible things that you need. Sometimes he can be a headache with some of the things that he says and how he carries himself. But the one thing you can't deny about the kid is he competes all the time. And I think what you saw in this international game is like, hey, look, I'm just not a defensive stopper. I can score too. You just got to run me some plays. You got to involve me in the offense. And Canada did that. He had a big game, huge game. And I think he was motivated going up against NBA players as well.
And Dennis Schroeder, of course, who is signed on with the Toronto Raptors, he's going to replace Van Vliet as their starting point guard. He's really the MVP of this tournament as Germany wins the gold with the Wagner brothers and Daniel Tice, the former Bull. They did a nice job. One other NBA story I want to get to before we get to bring Mark Grote in is there was news on Monday that Commissioner Adam Silver is trying to crack down on teams resting their star players in nationally televised games. The competition committee says they're going to fine teams that violate that rule. They're also going to try to have a new provision where teams can't sit 2 of their star players in the same game because they're cheating audiences who pay good money to come out and see these guys.
Well, it's a shame that you've got to implement these rules. I mean, if I'm an owner and I'm the NBA and I'm paying these guys $15, $20 million to play, you're going to play at least 70-plus games, okay? It's always been that way. Teams that, players going back to Bob Cousy and Bill Walton and Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain. Those guys were traveling buses and trains.
And they played every game.
They played every single game.
Yeah.
Some of those guys had to go get second jobs to be able to survive. The NBA wasn't paying the money that the players are getting now. Mm-hmm. They had to go out and get second jobs. So I don't really, I played in this league. It was an honor to play 75 to 82 games. It was a badge of honor when you say, hey, I played 82 games. We just didn't miss games, and to see these guys, missing 15, 20 games a year, especially with the way ticket prices are and how hard it is for families to take their whole family to the game. I've had some friends where they say, hey, I can't bring 5 people to the game. I can only bring 2 at a time, and that's so sad because, it's like, and then when you do come to the game, Mark, you find out that Kawhi Leonard's not playing, or LeBron's not playing. He's sitting out, and you pay good money to come see them play. And this might be the only time that you're able to see them play because they only come once when they come from the West Coast. And then I missed that game. And so I put all this money, and it's a waste. Yeah,
you look at some of the games missed by star players this past season, it's amazing. You run down the list of some of the laundry stars in the NBA, and they're playing 55, 60 games out of an 82-game season. And I think the thing that league is really concerned about from a financial perspective is you've got big money TV deals with these partners, and if the stars aren't playing, they're not getting the bang for their buck, and that could hurt them down the road.
Well, and here's what I would do if I'm an owner and say, hey, look, you guys want to miss games, that's fine. Then let's surrender a game check.
Yeah.
So these guys who are making $10 million and, they're making, $150,000 a minute. If you want to sit out, sit out. But surrender that game check.
Yeah.
The game check comes back to me.
That'll put an end to it real quick.
That'll put an end to it really quick.
Load management will be a thing of the past. So, some other team that looked like they might have been load managing yesterday was the Chicago Bears. Let's bring in our buddy Mark Grote, who was there with me at Soldier Field to witness the disaster. Grote, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. You know, all the hype about an improved roster. They've got playmakers. They've got weapons on offense. They've got an improved offensive line. It looked like the same shit as last year. Justin Fields running for his life, couldn't see receivers open down the field, and the defense gave up too many big plays in the passing game. So I know that Matt Eberflus talked today. Did he have any explanation for what happened for the opening night jitters?
No, not really like an explanation. There was at least an acknowledgement of it, though. And the slot, I mean, and I'll give you two specific things on offense and on defense that he pointed to. First of all, he didn't say the words "the blocking sucked," but he may as well have said the blocking sucked.
Because it did.
Yeah, well, and from watching that game and knowing the game plan, this was about very conservative short passing where you require really good downfield blocking, and it wasn't there. And then just with the offensive line itself, they were a nightmare. I mean, they were sloppy. There were false starts after false starts, most of them Braxton Jones, one credited to the entire offensive line as well, which gave everybody a little laugh, I think, in the press box when that was announced to us as well. So blocking was bad on offense. The thing that he mentioned, again, acknowledged, was that third down was atrocious for the defense in terms, I mean, right from the very beginning of the game, the Packers with Jordan freaking Love, they convert a 3rd and 13 along the way to scoring. They score a touchdown on a 4th and 3. They converted that. Actually, I don't know if this was on 3rd down, but it's worth bringing up because it was also maybe the biggest nightmare of the game, the 51-yard screen to Aaron Jones, which just makes you think about every other Packer regime that has gone up against the Bears. You know, they have been great at that with the Bears. So, yeah, the Flus acknowledged it. Don't know what the solutions are at this point, though.
I'll tell you, one of the things that really was disappointing for me, Mark, is that here you got a big-time receiver, and he only got 2 targets the whole game. How do you not get DJ Moore more involved in the offense? Is it the play calling, or is it Justin Fields running for his life, not knowing where DJ Moore is because he's trying to stay upright and not get hurt?
Yeah, there was the one drive where he had those 2 magical targets and the 2 magical catches that went along with it. That was when Cairo Santos hit a 37-yard field goal. It was a 12-play, 52-yard drive. He had passes of 11 yards and 14 yards to DJ Moore, and it was like, okay, that looks pretty good. And the passes that they made to DJ Moore, the connections, a slant pass at one point in time, and Justin Fields looked good on it. And then all of a sudden, it was never to be found in the game again. I can only tell you what DJ Moore, talking to him in the locker room, he did say that, he was getting extra attention, and the words he used were, I don't know if, it may have been hard to see because of all the attention that I was getting. My only response to that is Justin Fields has got to adjust to that. I don't think that's excusable, the idea that, you couldn't see the guy. This is the life of a number 1 wide receiver, and the life of a quarterback is to find your number 1 receiver, even in those circumstances. So, yeah, that was terrible, especially relative to what we saw in training camp and even in the preseason with DJ Moore, and then he was a big nothing yesterday.
Yeah, I was in that scrum with you with DJ Moore, and you got the feeling that, okay, it's the opening game, I'll give him 1, but if this shit continues, he's gonna have a lot to say. And the reality, because he's a number 1 receiver, he's a diva like so many guys in the past. But the bottom line is let's get to the crux of the matter. If Justin Fields doesn't get better, this is just going to be a terrible season. And the things that were alarming, I know, as you mentioned, the game plan was to go to a lot of the shorter passes and let guys try to break tackles and make plays in space, but there were open receivers that he just didn't see. And we heard so much in the offseason about his progress, about how he sees the field better, how he's making better decisions, and he was getting some love nationally. And yet in game 1, he looked jittery and unsure of himself. Is it we getting to the point in his third season where you're worried about his long-term future?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'll answer that question, but I'll preface it by saying that we saw some of this in training camp. I was at every single training camp practice, and one of the big problems for Justin Fields was his accuracy throwing the ball down the field. And there were so many times where we'd be tweeting about, there's another Tyreek Stevenson interception. There's another Kyler Gordon. And I called him the MVP of the defense and one of the MVPs of training camp, just because Justin Fields was misfiring on a lot of plays. And that leads me into the game plan. I understood the game plan that Luke Getsy implemented because they obviously were seeing exactly what we saw, and that was a lack of accuracy with the downfield passing. Not that that can't evolve. And then finally, Mark, his future and what this says. Am I starting to get worried about his future as a big time NFL starting quarterback? Yeah, absolutely. And it's not like he can't overcome this, and he can't. I haven't ruled him out as still being a special quarterback. But I think the biggest problem is that even though it is fair to say the offensive line was collapsing, there was the bad blocking downfield. DJ Moore was covered, or whatever DJ Moore was saying. If you are a good or great quarterback in this league, you're supposed to make those guys better. Unfortunately, that's not something I'm seeing out of Justin Fields right now. That I can say definitively. He is not making other players better.
Well, you look at Chase Claypool, his picture's on a milk carton. They're looking for him. Because talking about in the preseason, a lot of people were raving about he looked like a different person when he wasn't hurt and he wasn't missing practice. And then you saw they made a video. Me and Mark were talking about this. They made a video of all the plays where he didn't have energy, missed blocks. It just looked really bad. He just didn't like he was really out there playing. When the play wasn't designed for him, it's almost like he kind of quit on plays. And so what do they say about that? Did they even talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, they will. Like that Claypool's name I don't think ever came up individually today with Matt Eberflus. And I'll say this too, Chase Claypool was not available in the locker room afterwards, so we did not get a chance to talk to him. He skipped out of there. But to your point, Stacey, I mean, I was on the Score pregame show with Patrick Manley and Olin Kreutz and Mike Mully from the morning show on the Score. And I told him, I said, hey, even though Chase Claypool was injured in camp and he had his little skirmishes, I said, he looked pretty good, actually. Like, he looked good in camp. So I was one of the people saying, yeah, give this guy let's see what he is with a blank slate, and forget last year he was dropped in. Maybe he didn't know the playbook. Maybe we'll allow for his excuses. After yesterday, I got nothing. Like, there's no excuse for that. You're absolutely right, Stacey. I mean, it seemed like the plays that he knew the ball wasn't coming to him in particular, it was like you weren't seeing the aggression from him, the speed from him, the blocking from him. None of it was there. So I honestly have no idea what's going on with Chase Claypool. Somebody asked me today, and the question surprised me a little bit, but it can't be ruled out. The question to me was, will he be active against Tampa Bay? Might he be one of the inactives for the Bears? Excuse me. And I got to be honest with you, I can't rule that out. I mean, you got Equanimeous St. Brown and Velus Jones Jr., both who were inactive. Do one of those guys, does he swap with one of those guys in week 2, if nothing else, but to get his head right? Because it doesn't seem like it's in the game right now.
All right, so the Bears have to try to regroup, go on the road to play the Buccaneers in Tampa. They upset the Minnesota Vikings on week 1. So obviously this is a team that is going to have a good chance to win at home. Then you've got the Kansas City Chiefs on the road, the defending Super Bowl champions. This could get out of hand quickly. What is your confidence level in this group being able to circle the wagons and come up with a competitive effort in Tampa on Sunday?
I mean, I've seen it with Bears teams in the past. Unfortunately, I don't have any examples right off the top of my head, but we all know that we've seen a lot of really awful losses by the Bears, and there have been rebounds for them. So it's in other words, it's not inconceivable that the Bears would go on the road and beat Tampa Bay next week. Like, I don't think Tampa Bay is that, like, that was surprising what they did in Minnesota. I don't think that they are that good, and maybe Minnesota's that bad. I don't know. Some combination of weird NFL confluences coming together there. But yeah, I mean, they need to get their acts together quickly because, I mean, you said it right, Mark. I mean, there's no way they're going to beat Kansas City. Let's just be real about that. No matter what, even if the Bears win this game against Tampa Bay, but everything was so bad in that first game. Offense, defense, penalties, everything, mentally, physically, everything was just so bad. You've almost put yourself in a situation where in week 2, and I kind of did the half genuine, it's a must win against the Packers because of everything. Now here they are because of the schedule in a situation where they kind of got to win this game for more reasons than just falling to 0-2, but also for the overall morale. And is this team actually better this year than it was last year? Because that's the bar.
Well, and is Luke Getsy gonna open up the playbook a little bit more? Because when you talked about DJ Moore being double teamed and having, getting a lot of attention, that means other guys are going to be wide open. That means guys are going to have one-on-one matchups. Is he going to open up the playbook and instead of doing this little dink and diamond and, screens, and let Justin Fields throw the ball down the field a little bit more?
I think that will happen, and I was just on with our friends Danny Parkins and Matt Spiegel, and Parkins was particularly livid over the fact that there was only one design run for Justin Fields. So what I'm saying, Stacey, is that maybe they go back to last year a little bit where, you see an opening, man, you take that opening, or design more runs for him as well. The only problem that I have with the concept of let's just let Justin Fields loose, I mean, that's what I'd love to see. But again, not seeing the conversions in training camp makes me nervous and makes me understand what the game plan was. But I guess eventually, if you want to be a real NFL team that keeps up with other NFL teams in an offensive era, eventually, yes, you got to start throwing the ball down the field.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of comments we hear on Wednesday and Thursday during the open locker room periods at Hallis Hall. I know like yourself, reporters just dread having to go in there, when the season's lost. It can't be lost after week 1. There's got to be some optimism. We got 16 more of these left.
It's so true. And I do think, I will say this, the locker room was quote unquote good yesterday.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Chase Claypool not being around. They knew it was bad. It's all, as you said, Mark, you get it, man. You are a veteran reporter like me. Yeah. This early, they're pretty good at standing up and answering these questions, but it could get away from them and then consequently get away from us. That's right. In a real hurry. So God help us all. God help us all.
Yeah, I picked a great year to be back on the beat. That's great.
well, there was Roshan.
The Bears, baby.
There was Roshan. There is one.
Yeah, Roshan Johnson looked good in garbage time.
Oh
right?
yeah. We'll give you Roshan. The 4th round rookie out of Texas had a nice game. So I wish it meant more, but yeah, I guess it's funny you say that. That's maybe the one thing that corresponded with what happened in the training camp on the good side. I mean, that actually appeared in the game. Roshan Johnson has been a nice little revelation after he got over his injury. He has looked good in the preseason, has looked good in training camp, and you got to get a little feel of Roshan Johnson, who hopefully we can celebrate for better reasons later on in the season.
Well, let's not let the defense get off the hook either, because they sucked on the front. The front guys sucked too. How now going into Tampa Bay, because you're going to be facing kind of a mobile quarterback in Baker Mayfield. Are they going to try to bring some pressure, blitz, do some different things? Because that's what Green Bay did to the Bears yesterday. They sent a lot of different blitz packages at Justin Fields, but I didn't feel like the Bears really put a lot of pressure on Jordan Love as far as a blitz package. So can we see something different in this game against Tampa Bay, put a little pressure on the quarterback?
Yeah, I hope they do find a way. I hope that they adjust in game because the 4-3 defense, they're hoping to get the pressure from the upfront guys. That's the name of the game in that defense. But to your point, when you're not getting to the quarterback, and you never got to the quarterback last year either, by the way, it's time to adjust, and it's time to hold the coaches and Alan Williams accountable. You brought in Yannick Ngakoue, who did have a sack on a stunt play. He did have a tackle for loss, but you can't just be like, all right, leave these guys out there and hope that the pressure that you're getting naturally will get to the quarterback, because it hasn't for 2 years. So, or a year and a game. I'm not going to completely crush these guys. But yeah, I mean, I will say that, for DeMarcus Walker, that was his first game after not playing in the preseason. So I thought he looked and admitted that he was a little bit rusty. But, I'd like to see them dial up, what they used to do with Roquan Smith, dial up Tremaine Edmonds, maybe, DJ Walker, whatever the case may be, to get a little bit more corner blitz, something, just to give the quarterback the it's like throwing to first base on a pickoff play. At least let them know you're there, for crying out, that we're thinking about you. Give the imagination a little bit more of a flex.
All right, Grote. Well, hopefully we'll be talking next Monday about a bounce-back win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Good luck in the trenches at Hallis Hall this week, and we appreciate your work as always.
Thanks, guys. Always love coming on with you three.
Thanks, Mark.
Mark Grote, our Bears insider, with the post-mortem after a very, very tough loss to the arch-rival Packers. Hey, when it comes to insurance for your auto, home, and business, make sure you contact the king of insurance. He's our good friend, nationwide agent Jeff Vukovich. You can reach him at jeffvuk.com. That's jeffvuk.com. And I don't think he was smiling like that watching the Bears game yesterday. His phone number where you can reach him is 847-825-4783. He's the best in the business, our good friend Jeff Vukovich, and the jingle, always in season.
Nationwide is on your side.
Very nice. Hey, coming up next, we got a special treat. If you've been enjoying the show Winning Time on HBO Max, it's based on the book written by Jeff Pearlman called Showtime. Jeff's going to join us next to give us his review on the show and also talk about some of his best-selling books that involve some Chicago legends. That's next on Gimme the Hot Sauce. Gimme the Hot Sauce rolls on, and of course, no episode would be complete without our buddy Christopher Walken telling how you can get some hot sauce.
You guys threw me off coming in on a Monday. I got other things to do.
Come on, Chris. You gotta put the time in.
Mondays are busy. It's Thursdays that I was free.
Wow. Okay, next time we'll remember to work around your schedule, Christopher Walken.
Yeah, well, thanks. So, anyhow, let me tell you, because I got to get back to listening to some Foo Fighters. Foo Fighters. And so keep using the codes, everyone. Walk and Fire, Walk and Q. Get your free bottles at GimmeTheHotSauce.com with any order. And if you haven't been there before, it's GIMME hotsauce.com.
And that slacker Whispers will bottle it for you, right?
That's right. And if it shows up broken, it wasn't my doing.
All right.
Yeah, he forgot the hot sauce. We were at the event we had last week with the Cubs tailgating. Yeah. Well, Whispers forgot the case of hot sauce that we were supposed to bring to the hamburger tasting thing. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Great work, Chris.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't me. It was that idiot Whispers again.
He had it in his car, and then he rides over with me and Mike over to the event, and he leaves the bottles in his car. So when we get there, everybody says, hey, where's your hot sauce? People are asking for the hot sauce. Where's your hot sauce, Stacey? I want to change your hot sauce. Oh, you got to go talk to that guy over there. Whispers.
Whisper strikes again.
Wow.
Every guest that appears on the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast is sent a 4-pack of Stacey's delicious organic sauces, and that includes our next guest, Jeff Pearlman. Jeff, you a fan of hot sauce?
I'm not going to lie, I was confused by what I walked into right there.
We kind of set you up for that.
Look, if listening to that for a minute and a half gets me free hot sauce, hell yeah.
Stacey's got 4 varieties, so we'll get you that packed up and sent out to you. I know you've had a already stressful day. Your daughter had some car trouble, and you had to jump in as a heroic dad and take care of it, right?
I did, and not joking, $600 later, which doesn't sound that bad for car trouble, but $600 less. Here I am, and it was a bad day, $600, but I would have paid $600 for some hot sauce. So.
Oh, hey,
it's a bargain at any price, right?
It's a bargain. Oh yeah. We definitely would not turn our collar down on that one, baby.
Well, let's give you a proper introduction. Best-selling author, your book Showtime is the basis for the HBO Max series Winning Time, which I know that a lot of our fans are really enjoying watching that show. It is so much fun to watch, Jeff. And take us through what the process was like in getting a book adapted to the HBO format.
I mean, it's a very long, arduous, not that exciting thing to go through. The book came out in 2014, and around that time, a writer named Jim Hecht, whose credit was Ice Age 2, that was his big credit,
came
to my house because he said he loved Showtime and blah, 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 and blah, blah. So not joking, actually, Easter Sunday, 2014, two Jewish guys. He comes to my house. I'm having family dinner. He shows up. My wife says, "Who the hell is this guy?" I'm like, "It's Jim Hecht. He wrote Ice Age 2." And she's like, "Okay." And he comes in and he's very, very chivalrous and very, very nice. And he shows up with three, I'm not joking, Easter 2014, Jewish family dinner. Jim Hecht shows up with a block of Baker's chocolate in saran wrap, a very large tomato, and a bottle of imitation wine drink. And that is what he used inexplicably to woo me to give him the rights. And I gave him the rights to the book. And for years and years, it's going to be good. And I was like, okay. He's like, it's going to be good. Okay. Every now and then it'd be like, Will Smith. All right. And 4 years ago, he says, Adam McKay wants us to come to his house. And I said, oh, that's cool. And I got off the phone and Googled Adam McKay because I'd never heard of Adam McKay. And he's done all these movies and TV. I didn't know anything. And we go to his house and he's like, I like the book. And I just never believed it would happen. Like I never believed it would happen. And then one day I start seeing Adrian Brody cast as Pat Riley, John C. Reilly cast as Jerry Buss. Sally Field was a big one. Sally Field, Rob Morgan, and on and on and on. All of a sudden, this season I played Jeff, a reporter, in an episode of Winning Time based on my show Showtime. It's been the craziest thing ever. Long story short.
Wow. Okay, so I love the show. And being in the NBA, I know some of the intricacies of what goes on behind the scenes. And one of the things that really surprised me is Jerry West, coming out saying, this is not true. This is not how I was. And because Jerry West looks like an insane guy on the show. He just looks like he's like just going to pull out a chainsaw and kill somebody. But when you wrote your book, when it came out, did you get the same kind of feeling that they're doing with the show? Like they come to you and say, hey, I didn't like what you said about me in the book. That wasn't me, blah, 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 blah. Did you get that same kind of feel that they're getting on the show from some of these guys?
I didn't. And it's funny, the book was very well received. I'm not just saying that, like it was really well received. And Jeannie Buss, the Lakers, they all liked the book. And it wasn't like a kiss ass to the Lakers, but it was, fairly reported and whatever. And I think what happened is a TV show comes out. It's not a documentary. It's a dramatic series, important words based on true events, which means they take stretches, they take elongations, they do that. That's what it is. And I've always said to the writers on the show, I get it. Like I get you're Jerry West. You're watching the show. You're like that, that's not how I would depict myself. I don't really like it that way. And the thing I always think is like Jerry West wrote an autobiography. It's a great, great book. Jerry West's autobiography is one of the best sports books ever written. And in it, he talks about his own sort of manic behavior and his own insecurities and snapping a golf club over, all that stuff. So I don't really understand his complaint because he's one of two figures I've ever covered, executives in sports, who can't watch their own team play. Him and Billy Beane are the two of the Oakland A's, could not watch their teams play. So I never heard it with the book. I definitely hear it with the TV show. I understand where they are coming from, but I also think the show, I think Stacey would agree, like overall, it's an homage to the 80s Lakers.
Yes.
Yeah, and reading Jerry West's book, I mean, he is so raw in that thing, just talking about, he basically was always depressed. The losses to the Celtics took such a toll on him. He always felt like he could never really be successful, even with all the many things that he accomplished in his life. The basketball scenes, I'm sure, are difficult because I don't know if you guys ever tried to look into let the NBA use some actual footage, but you see the actor who's portraying Jerry West. Obviously, he doesn't look like a basketball player, and some of the guys you see on the court, I remember the guy playing Dr. J didn't look like Dr. J, obviously,
yeah.
but that's not the key to the story. The story is so fascinating. The interaction, with Jerry Buss and his family and Magic Johnson. I don't think the basketball is the important part, and some people get too hung up on things like that.
Okay, I would say two things. Number one, I think I disagree with you slightly. Okay, I think the basketball on the show is really good. Like, I really do. I think the basketball is really good, and a ton of it is former Division I players, former Euroball players, playing doing most of the action, right? The guy who plays Kareem, Solomon Hughes, he was a starting center at Cal, so he's legit.
Yeah.
Sean Patrick Small, who plays Larry Bird, is a really good basketball player. Some of the guys, Quincy who plays Magic, was a college football player. Austin, who played Mark Landsberger, played wide receiver at Cal. Like, there are athletes there. I've never said this before in an interview, but I feel there's enough distance now. I don't know why they cast a 754-year-old man to play Dr. J. I thought that was
puzzling.
Yeah. That was a little curious. I didn't really get that one. But I do think overall, I mean, look, you guys, we're all in the same age bracket. We probably all survived watching Teen Wolf in the 1980s and seeing Michael J. kind of dribble at basketball. Like, I think it's pretty high level. I honestly do. I think the sports is pretty high level considering how hard it is to capture that kind of thing.
Yeah, listen, the only person I would say that because I played for Pat Riley in Miami, is that I think Adrian Brody is a great actor, but I didn't think he was a Pat Riley guy because he just doesn't. When you see him, Pat is a strong, and he's got this ego about him, and he's maybe pre-Lakers he was kind of weakish, like he was in the winning time. But I know the Pat Riley I played for in Miami that came from New York. He was a beast. Like, that guy.
But did you see? I have to say, I was with you at first when they cast Adrian Brody. I was like, I don't know, and now I'm kind of all in. And this is not because I'm involved in the show. I would just say nothing if I didn't feel this way. The scene in episode 5, which is 2 episodes ago, when he sort of becomes Pat Riley and he slams his fist into the board.
Yeah, the board.
He's like, Cooper, blah, blah, blah. You think you're a star. You are not. And he goes around guy to guy. For me personally, and I've been saying this, I think it's one of the greatest scenes I had nothing to do with it. I think it's one of the best freaking scenes I've ever seen on TV, certainly in sports TV. It's kind of a rival of Riley. And the Riley you played for wasn't the early Riley, who was a little bit of a quiet assistant under Paul Westhead, a rejected announcer, didn't know what to do. Like, he evolved that. And I almost feel like in a lot of ways, it's like watching the rise of Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Not Pat Riley is Darth Vader, but this rise of this main character. So I don't know. I hear what you're saying, but I do think they've done the rise of Riley pretty freaking well.
I will agree with you because when he hit that board in the locker room, that was Pat Riley. That was Pat Riley because Pat Riley challenged players, in Miami. He challenged players in New York. And, when I saw that, I go, okay, that's because I didn't know Pat Riley before that. I've only known Pat Riley since, when I was a kid watching him do Showtime, had the slick back hair. And I thought when they brought Adrian Brody to, slick back his hair, that's when he started to evolve as Pat Riley. But in the beginning, because I had never saw him when he was the failed announcer and he was a guy, they made him look like he was really soft. And I'm like, that's not Pat Riley. That's not the Pat Riley I know. But then I started seeing how it all was going to evolve later.
The power of Armani.
The power of Armani. Totally.
Whispers.
That's right.
You got a question for?
I got a lot of them. So one of the things is that you guys are already touching on the inaccuracy stuff, and you got like Bob Ryan saying he needs a barf bucket to watch it. Is the Celtic stuff, but some of the ones that people ask about is did Larry Bird actually do a tryout in his jeans and flannel shirt and boots, and some of those conflicts with Kareem. Can you talk a little bit about that? The Larry scene.
Well, first of all, I do want to say, I do think it's actually weird. Like, it's weird to be in my position, which is a great position to be in. I'm not complaining, but like, probably like you guys, if you work in sports, you're not good. You're not a great audience for like sports movies. The actual best example I use is Moneyball. Like, I was a baseball writer at Sports Illustrated during the Moneyball days. So when I watched Moneyball and they're like, the key to the A's was Scott Hatteberg. I'm like, really? Because I remember they had 3 Cy Young Award candidates, Eric Chavez at third and Miguel Tejada at short. Like, I don't quite remember Scott Hatteberg. So I'm like, I'm not good at that. I watched 42, the Jackie Robinson movie.
Yep.
I'm like, oh my God, they Disney-fied this really gripping story. So I have had to make this adjustment myself. I truly have, where I've had to let go because it is not, again, it's not a documentary. It's based on the book. It's not the book. So like episode 1 was my first real lesson. They had Magic and Norm Nixon go to a white party. Everyone's wearing white at this party and they play one-on-one and Norm steps over him and that didn't happen. So I didn't like that. Like I hated that at first. And then you're like, look, man, Michael Chiklis, who played Jack McKinney, and he's a really well-known playwright, said to me, he's like, real life is boring. If we were really portraying these guys in real lifetime, it'd be he drives his Chevy to the dealership and he gets his tire changed and then he shakes hands. Like you have to accentuate and augment. So the Kareem stuff, I mean, it's pretty true. He was a pain in the ass. He was difficult. Stacey, I don't know if you ever dealt with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He's not a picnic.
Yeah.
He's kind of difficult. Magic, as you noted, he liked to have sex with a lot of women. I think we undersold that, if anything. I think we probably were a little hard. This has been my one complaint on Paul Westhead. I think Paul Westhead was a better coach than we kind of make him out to be.
He was.
Paul Westhead could coach.
Yeah, he could coach.
Yeah.
Because I remember Paul Westhead at Loyola Marymount. And he had that running gun style of play where they were scoring 140, 150 points a game. So when they showed him in the movie, in the show, I was like, man, like he's a history teacher. He's like, you know.
He was, though.
Yeah,
he was. He actually, he came out of LaSalle and he was really like the accidental tourist. I will say, like Jack McKinney hired him to be his assistant because McKinney was at St. Joe's. Paul Westhead was at LaSalle. They coached against each other. McKinney gets a job out here. He needs an assistant. Westhead knows the system. He hires him. But I do think like they make him a little like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I actually
all shucks.
Yeah, right. All shucks. But that's cool. You know, it is what it is. There was one example you mentioned that I don't remember what it was that I wanted to address. But what was the one you decided?
Oh, Larry in the tryout with the jeans and flannel.
Oh. Happened.
All right.
Stacey almost went down.
Someone shot the president.
I just want to say, if anyone goes down, I'm taking all the hot sauce.
Oh, you can have it.
No, Bird did. That is a true 100% story. True. Bird shows up at Indiana State. Coach is trying to get him there. He's wearing jeans and work boots. And the coach offers him like, you want to wear shorts? He's like, nah, I'm good. And he just lights up the gym. That's a true story.
It is. I believe it. I believe it. Larry Bird. I keep telling people, Larry Bird was the biggest trash talker in the NBA. And some of these kids who don't really know Larry Bird, who say, "Oh, Larry Bird, I'd give him 50, or he wouldn't be able to score on me." Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay, whatever. Then you woke up.
Wait, Stacey, I want to say something. I'm being serious about this because this has been my talking point throughout this. I think everything about Larry Bird is so nonsense. When they're like, Larry Bird wasn't a good athlete. Like, I get he wasn't Dominique Wilkins. He certainly wasn't a bad athlete. Like, you can't say Larry Bird was a bad athlete. And the other thing, people will look at him, they see this, like, obviously, they see this doughy white guy from 1983, and they're like, that guy couldn't play in today's NBA. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Exactly. Exactly.
I was a killer. Yeah.
And in winning time, the way his attitude in winning time was to me, I thought it was real, because the way he kind of talked trash and the way he, basically imposed his will in that show, that's how he was in real life. I mean, he's going to tell you what he's going to do. We were talking about it the other day when he told the Portland Trailblazers that I'm going to score all these points with my left hand. And he scores like 40 something points, and he scores like half his points with his left hand. There's nobody in this league today that could go out and say, I'm going to score 20, 30 points with my left hand. There's nobody in the league that can do that right now. And there's some of the things that Larry Bird did was just unbelievable.
Michael Cooper told me when I was researching the book, he's like, Bird would literally go up to him and be like, all right, listen here. I'm going to catch the ball in the elbow. I'm going to dribble twice with my left hand. I'm going to switch over to my right. I'm going to bank it. And then you'd just be jogging after doing it. They jog back down the court, and Bird would just whisper to Cooper, I told you, man. I told you. You can't guard me.
I tell the story about him. I mean, people think he was just like this non-athletic dude. Man, he'll talk trash to you before he even takes the shot. I was guarding him at the 3-point line in my rookie year, and Phil told me to get up on him, and I had both feet on the 3-point line. He was right by the hash mark, and he says, "Hey," he said, "You gonna give me this shot? You better get up on me." I said, "Man, take that shot. You ain't no way in the world you're gonna make this shot." He said, "If I make this shot, you're going to get taken out of the game. And it seemed like it was a conversation going for like 2 minutes, but it was like a 10, 15-second conversation. Phil Jackson's like, get up on him. Don't give him that shot. He'll make it. And I'm like, I'm above the 3-point line, and I'm just waving Phil off like, shut the hell up. I got him. There's no way in the world he's going to take this shot. Plus, it was at the end of his career where his back was bad. So he goes, if I make this shot, rookie out the game. So all of a sudden, it's the shot clock's winding down. We're in the Boston Garden. He raises up and shoots it over an extended hand from like 35 feet. Bam! And then you hear the guy go, Larry Bird for 3. And the whole Boston Garden goes crazy, Jeff. We go back down the court. I'm over there shaking my head like I cannot believe he just hit this shot. We're going back down the floor. The horn goes, and I look over to the side. Scottie Pippen's getting ready to come in and get me. And so as I'm getting ready to go out, I'm like, damn it. And he goes, hey, Rook, I told you if I hit this shot, you was going to go out of the game, so they're going to go sit your ass down. So then I'm walking over to the bench. Phil Jackson's yelling at me like he's my dad. I told you to get up on him. And I'm like, Phil, I was up on him. He was almost at half court. Just sit down. Just sit down. So Larry comes back to the corner where I'm sitting at. They're getting ready to run a play on the opposite side. He runs back over to my side. He said, hey, Rook. He said, I told you if I hit that shot, you're going to sit out. He said, but don't feel bad. I do your boy Pip like that all the time. And this is all, seriously, he talks so much trash. And even with a bad back, like even when he, at the end of his career, when he couldn't even sit on the bench, he had to lay on the floor with the heat packs. He still talked trash. Unbelievable player.
And actually a nice guy. Like, not a bad guy.
Very cool dude.
Yeah.
Jeff, the show was so much fun. I love some of the scenes where, the characters will kind of let you in. They'll look directly at the camera and go, watch what happens now. It's so well done. The show's so well produced. And I guess that leads me to my next point is, how do we get a season 3? I know you've been on a one-man crusade doing tons of media trying to make sure that there is a season 3 of Winning Time. Has the writer's strike been an influence, or is it just the fact that HBO going to this new branding, they've kind of lost their audiences?
It's a lot of things. I've been happy to see last week Jeannie Buss started tweeting about the show and raving about the show, which I love Jeannie. I think the show is, when it started coming along, strained our relationship a little bit because we always had a good relationship. But she really likes the show, and I think she really loves the way John C. Reilly plays her dad. So it's certainly helpful. Snoop Dogg's been tweeting about the show and doing Instagram posts about the show. But I'm a TV outsider. Like, I'm still a TV outsider, but it does seem like nowadays, just so much of it is based on, just being honest, we promised our shareholders this percentage. Yeah. And we're only giving them this percentage. So blah, blah, blah. How are we going to, and it is an expensive show. There's no doubt about it. Its ratings are really good. They could be better. No doubt about it. We need people to watch it. I don't know. The season ends in 1984, season 2, and you can look it up in 2 seconds. The Celtics win the title in 1984, and I hate the idea of this show going out with the Celtics winning the title. And I will say one other thing about this show that I mean deeply, and this comes from having experience now being involved in this. If you look at Hollywood and you look at the history of Hollywood, the depictions, particularly of black men, is not very good. And it's a lot of like, we're going to make them drug dealers. We're going to make them idiots. We're going to make them thugs. We're going to make them dads who don't show up. And, there's somewhat the blind side. We're going to have the white saviors who take care of the bumbling black idiot. That is what Hollywood has done through the years. And here's a show. It's not just Magic and it's not just Kareem. It's Magic's dad, played by Rob Morgan. It's Magic's agent. It's Wood Harris coming in as Spencer Haywood. It's like, there's so many roles that are like strong, impressive, black men, black women. And I just think there's something important about that. I really do, because especially in light of everything that's come out with Blindside lately. Yeah. And the whole white savior nonsense of Hollywood, that this show is really, to me, maybe I'm biased. I am biased because it's my show, but I just feel like it's really special, and it's really special to me. So
talk a little bit about The Boys Will Be Boys, the Dallas Cowboys book you wrote. I thought that was like a magical time, because I grew up in Oklahoma and I always grew up a Cowboys fan. And then when they were able to, kind of turn it around and get back on track of winning again, that transition from Tom Landry to Jimmy Johnson. So talk a little bit about you writing that book and some of the things that you discovered while you were doing that.
Oh, man. So that book, that was my third book. It's interesting. That was my third book. My first book was about the 86 Mets, made the New York Times bestseller list. My second book was about Barry Bonds, did not sell well at all. And it comes back with this book I'm going to do about the Dallas Cowboys in the 1990s. And one of the moments I knew I had a really good book is the Cowboys back then. This is toward the end of the dynasty after Switzer took over from Gimme. Yep. And they had an offensive lineman named Everett McIver. And one day, Everett McIver goes in. He was maybe a rookie or first year player, but they had a barber who would come every week or whatever to training camp. And Everett McIver sits in the chair, and it's Michael Irvin's turn. And Michael Irvin's like, get out of the chair. And Everett McIver's like, I'm just getting my haircut. He's like, get out of the chair. Everett McIver won't get out of the chair. Michael Irvin picks up a pair of scissors and stabs Everett McIver in the neck. With scissors. While Michael Irvin was already on probation. And the whole thing was buried. And like the Cowboys made sure it never got out. But like Michael Irvin was out of his mind. And I don't think I've ever written about a player quite like Michael Irvin, actually, who he was truly, in every sense of the word, the heart of the Dallas Cowboys. He was the emotive leader. You know, it wasn't Aikman, it wasn't Emmett, it was Michael Irvin. Like he played his ass, busted his ass, played as hard as he could be. At the same time, had drug issues, had control issues, women everywhere, the whole thing. And he was just so fascinating. And the other thing I love is like, they literally had a place called the White House in suburbia where Nate Newton once described it. I'm not going to do the quote justice, but he's like, someone asked him about it. And he's like, I don't see what the big deal is. We got some hose, we got some blunts, we got a house. Why is that so bad? It was so like 90s Cowboys, and they were so fun to write about, And it was one of my favorite book projects, one of my best-selling books too. So, that just probably shows.
At the other end of the spectrum, you wrote a book about one of the most universally beloved athletes in the Chicago area, Walter Payton, called Sweetness. What was your overall observation after researching that book?
So the inspiration for that book is interesting. I was at Sports Illustrated in 1999, and I was coming up at the time. I was as a young writer. And an editor said, do you want to go to Chicago or outside of Chicago? I forgot what town he was in. Walter Payton is trying to raise awareness for, I think it was bile duct cancer, or whatever it was at the time, that he was dying of. And, the chance, I was 26 or 27, to go meet Walter Payton, I'm a kid of the 80s, you're going to take it. And you're a young writer, and you're hungry. And I fly out there, and I remember like he greeted me at his office, and I didn't know it was him. I thought it was an old guy working for him. That's how diminished he was.
Yeah.
He was wearing like a taxi driver's cap, and his eyes were jaundiced yellow. And it was a really haunting and sad experience. He sat behind a desk, and I interviewed him about dying. I interviewed Walter Payton about dying. And I decided to do that book. It's funny because it was a nightmarish book release, because the book came out, and at the time, this is really pre-internet as a huge thing. Sports Illustrated ran an excerpt on the cover of the book. I literally have it hanging up on my wall here. It said, Walter Payton, the hero nobody knew. And the excerpt, which is just a sliver of the book that came out in the magazine, was all about sort of Walter Payton at the end of his life, infidelity, depression, some drug abuse, et cetera, et cetera. And the excerpt comes out, and the book is not out, and no one's seen the book. And it got really bad in Chicago. Like, who is this guy? I was getting threats. There was a book burning when the book came out. I was going to go to Chicago and promote it. I did not do that because they honestly feared for my safety. And what happened is people came around and actually read the book. And I remember like Emery Moorhead, the old Bears tight end, emailing me and saying, hey man, I owe you an apology. I didn't know what this was, and I'm really sorry. And that happened over time, but it was not a fun book release by any stretch of the imagination.
Wow. Have you ever thought about doing a Chicago Bulls book story?
I think it would be great. The problem is there have been 8,000 Chicago Bulls books done. And the truth of the matter is like, okay, it's one thing if like, and this is no disrespect to anyone, but like the local whatever writer does a book on a season with the Bulls, right? But like David Halberstam wrote a book about the Chicago Bulls, and David Halberstam is one of the great writers of all time. And then obviously the documentary comes out, and I just don't know how much oxygen is left in that story to tell. I just don't know. Maybe Stacey King is going to tell me otherwise, and I'll believe
talk
you.
to Pip. He's got a lot to say. We had Pip on the show, and he is so bitter. He's got a lot to say.
It's really, yeah. It's I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know better than I. Yeah.
Hey, before we let you go, you got to tell a story about Bo Jackson trying to keep you out of doing a promotional tour in Alabama. I mean, I covered Bo a little bit when he played for the White Sox near the end of his career, and you told a story in your Substack about you invited him to be part of the book, and he politely declined, and then he kind of went antagonistic and tried to prevent you from doing your trade.
Yeah. He put the ass in antagonistic, I would say. Yeah. It was weird. I'm like you guys, I'm sure. I was an enormous Bo Jackson fan and am an enormous Bo Jackson. I literally have sitting here on my wall, literally in front of me, Bo Jackson's freshman media guide bio from Auburn. I am a huge Bo Jackson guy. This book was a complete labor of love. When I spoke to Bo Jackson on the phone at the beginning of the process, he wasn't going to help me, but he was cool about it. Like he was, hey, I totally, whatever, it's fine. You know, I don't have a problem with you doing it. People ask me to talk all the time, however, and, you know, blah, 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 blah. So, I do a bunch of the book comes out and it gets really good reviews. It's not like it's out, got good reviews. Some books do, some don't. This book got really good reviews. And I decided I want to do some book signings in Alabama. COVID has been a real drag. It's a chance to actually contact with people again and feel human. And I arranged a bunch of book signings in Alabama. And early on, one of the bookstore owners said, something weird happened. I don't know if it's legit. She said, someone identifying himself as Bo Jackson called the store and demanded that we not let you speak. And at first I was like, that's probably not him. And then I was thinking, it probably is him. Then a different bookstore owner, I ran that story by that person. He's like, oh yeah, he called us too. That's exactly what he said. It was him, blah, 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 blah. And to be honest with you, I found it really disheartening because like, okay, I could write a book about Stacey King and the Bulls, and Stacey King is like, I hated that book. That sucks. You put on Twitter, I don't think anyone should read this book. Calling bookstores and saying you should not allow an author to appear, it crosses a weird line sort of in America about like just free speech.
Yeah.
And people be heard. And he could have showed up at the book signing and been like, hey, don't believe anything this guy says. All right, that's fair. I just think it's weird to call. And also, not for nothing, these were not Barnes and Nobles. These were like Mindy's Books and Muffins in Dothan, Alabama. Like they were like, I'm sure Mindy was like, I just want to sell muffins, you know, like. So it was a bit of a bummer, you know.
What was his problem though, Jeff? What was his problem about the book? Why was he so like anti?
I don't know for sure. One thing I was told is I heard his wife was not happy, which I understand. So basically, when Bo was at Auburn, there was a brief period of time where he was kind of engaged to his wife, but also sort of kind of engaged to another woman at the same time. It's this weird sort of thing. And to me, it wasn't that big of a deal. Like he was 21 years old, right? We all do stupid things when we're 21 years old. We just do. We're dumb when we're that age, and we all do things. And I wrote about it, and I interviewed his girlfriend in college, who was lovely and awesome, and didn't have anything bad to say about Bo. It's just like we were engaged and this and that. But I heard his wife was not thrilled by that, and I get it. Just like Jerry West looking at the show and being like I get it. Some guy comes along, and I also get like you're Bo Jackson. Some author comes along, and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to write your story." And Bo Jackson probably thinks, okay, yeah, all right, fine. And he probably thinks I'm going to call his high school coach, his college coach, George Brett and Howie Long, right? But like when you're a biographer, you call everybody. So all of a sudden you're Bo Jackson and you're home, and like this is just a random, like your dentist is calling you and saying like, this guy, Jeff Pearlman, called me and he wanted to know what your molars are like. You know, like that didn't happen, but like that kind of thing. And all of a sudden you're like, whoa, this isn't exactly what I thought it was. I understand that 100%. I truly do.
So who's the worst? Will Clark, Rocker? Who's the worst on your list?
You saw I put that up there. All right, the worst all time has to be John Rocker because he's just a racist pile of crap, right? But I will say, like my experience with Will Clark, basically, I don't know. Do you guys remember the John Rocker story?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
1999, racist baseball player. The following spring, I'm still a baseball writer at Sports Illustrated. I'm getting recognized more than ever, but not in a good way at all. You know, and baseball is very conservative. Like the Major League clubhouse, it's basically a polar opposite of the NBA. It's very conservative. And I'm in the Orioles clubhouse and I'm milling around waiting for like their catcher, Charles Johnson. And Will Clark sees me. I have my name tag on. And Will Clark goes, he had a high pitch cackle. He's like, you Jeff Pearlman? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you wrote that Rocker story? I'm like, yeah. And he yells. He's like, why the F would anybody in this clubhouse talk to you? Why are you even in this clubhouse? Why would we, hey guys, see this guy here, blah, 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 blah. It was truly one of the most embarrassing, humiliating, like I was like 28 years old. And, you know, like nowadays, if someone did that to me in a clubhouse, I'd be like, go F yourself. Like, I don't need to take this from you. I'm doing my job. But I did not have the confidence or anything. And it sucked. It sucked.
Wow.
Well, Jeff, we really appreciate you being so generous with your time and telling us some great stories about your books. Make sure to check those out. And, of course, the season finale, season 2 of Winning Time, comes up on Sunday. It runs on HBO Max, but you don't have to watch it on Sunday. You can stream it on demand anytime you want. We want to build up the numbers so that we get a season 3 because it's been so entertaining to watch, so much fun, and truly, you know, like you said, it's different from what you see in most sports series. It's got a lot of humor in it. It's just a great time. It's a great watch.
It's cool to get the perspective from Jeff because he wrote the story.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to get his perspective on how he wrote the book and what it's the difference between the two.
And so when you get that package from Christopher Walken, it will be hot sauce, no explosive or anything like that.
I want to throw this by you guys real quick while I'm here.
Yeah.
I feel like after Winning Time, the next show should be, just tell me just randomly. What do you think the 1994-95 Minnesota Timberwolves? We got Stacey King.
There you go.
Yeah.
Was J.R. Ryder there?
I'm going to tell you, hey, Jeff, it'd be losing time. It won't be winning time, baby, losing time. But it would be a great story because we had J.R. Ryder and some of the things that was going on behind the scenes. Oh, Lord.
Can you guys allow me to tell my J.R. Ryder story?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is one of my best moments in my career and terrifying. And Stacey, you played with J.R. Ryder.
Yep.
No, he's a few nickels short of the dollar.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
I was working on a book called Three Ring Circus about Shaq and Kobe. And I had an address for J.R. Ryder, but I did not have a phone number. And he lives in Arizona, and I was going to be in Arizona. And I was like, I'm just going to drive to J.R. Ryder's house and knock on the door. A friend of mine goes to me, a friend of mine who's black, says, you just show up and knock on a black man's door at 9 a.m? Are you crazy? And I was like, he's like, you do not do that. And I was like, I don't know. I just, I'm a reporter. This is what I do, right? And I knocked on doors of all different. Okay. I show up at J.R. Ryder's house. I'm armed with one of my books. I'm literally holding my USFL book with me. I ring the doorbell. Kid answers. Can I help you? I'm like, hey, my name's Jeff Pearlman. Working on a book about, I'm here to talk to J.R. Ryder. He goes, hold on, closes the door. Woman comes to the door. Can I help you? Hey, my name's Jeff Pearlman. Here to see J.R. Ryder. I'm working on a book. Hold on one second. Closes the door. I hear the woman and the guy start screaming at each other. Who's at the door? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh no. So the door opens and there's J.R. Ryder. And he goes, who are you? And I said, hey, my name's Jeff Pearlman. I'm a writer and I'm working on a book and I want to talk to you. And he goes, nah, man. Nah. You just show up. You just show up here. You effing show up in my house. You show up in my house. And J.R. Ryder's like puffed. And he's like, you show up here at my house. Nah, man, you just knock on my door. You effing kidding me? You just knock on my door. He opens the screen door. He comes out. Man, you just show up. You just show up at my house. What's that book you got? Oh, it's a book I wrote. He's like, you just show up. What's the book about? I'm like, well, it's a book I wrote about the USFL. It's an old football league. He goes, is that the Trump league? I go, yeah. He goes, bro, you don't just show up at someone's house. That is so effed up. You don't just, I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you. You don't just show up here. You don't just show up. He gave me 2 hours. I thought,
oh my gosh.
He gave me 2 hours and he was a delight. J.R. Ryder is one of the most, if you get him going, that guy is no dummy at all.
No, he's not.
He's sharp as a tack. He's just crazy.
Yeah. He's never on time to anything. He's never on time. In Minnesota, they did this when I first got traded there because he's always late to the plane. He's late to the games. So one time a radio station got this huge clock. Like, I don't know how they got this big alarm clock that was huge, like 6 feet tall with the double bells or the thing. It hits it, bing, 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 bing. They put it outside his house because they knew he was going to be late. And so they put it outside his house and then called and then said, hey, there's an emergency fire, da-da-da. He comes running out. This alarm goes off, boom. And he literally, his boys pulled guns. Like they were going to shoot the people. And it was the craziest thing. And it was in the news. It was on the news the next day. Yeah. He got into a fight at the Mall of America on his birthday. He drop kicked a security guard.
He was crazy.
Yeah, he was, but he was highly intelligent though. Highly intelligent and a great basketball player.
I think one of the great talents of your generation who people don't realize, I'm not saying he was Kobe, but he was not that far away. Talent, just pure talent.
Yes.
You may disagree from that level of
No. I mean, I played with the kid. I mean, I thought he could score at all different levels. I just think if he would have been on a team with a veteran team that was winning, where he could play with a Clyde Drexler or Michael Jordan or Scottie Pippen or someone like that, have those kind of veterans when he first came in, I think he would be really good because he was with Christian Laettner. And Christian Laettner, I don't know what kind of player, how his personality was at Duke, but he was an asshole in the pros. I'm being honest. He was a jerk.
I think he still is.
Yeah, and nobody liked him. None of the teammates liked him. I mean, he isolated himself, and he was always with JR. And I tell you what, man, I tell you what, this is an era now where weed's legal. Back then, boy,
I like this idea of Stacey King. He's like, I played for the Bulls. Everything's great. Showing up. And all of a sudden, Laettner and J.R. Ryder are his go-to guys.
Listen, let me tell you something. There was many nights, Jeff, when I'll be scoring big because I got to shoot there. So there'd be many nights of guys would tell me, you went from the penthouse to the outhouse. Now, where's Black Jesus now? Because, they always call Michael Black Jesus. You ain't got Black Jesus with you tonight. And I could score 25 when you lose by 25. It wasn't no fun.
You went from Black Jesus and Jordan to in Laettner white douchebag.
Oh, yeah. Man, I'm telling you. I mean, he might have changed. He might have changed over the years now that he's gotten older.
Yeah, right.
But as a teammate, boy, he was. Oh, I tell you what, he cursed at the coaches. I remember my first game in Golden State. We were playing up in Golden State, and they had ran a play for someone who scored 2-3 straight times, and then Sidney Lowe, who was the coach, said, "All right, we're going to keep running that play. They can't stop it." And then Christian Laettner said, "No, we're not running that play anymore. Run my play." And I looked over and I'm like, did the players run the team or he literally told Sidney, you're going to run this play. And Sidney ran that play for him. After a guy who had scored 2 or 3 buckets in a row had it going. And most teams normally keep going to that guy until he says, I'm tired, or he misses a shot. Christian Laettner was like, no, we're not running that play. We're not running anymore. Run my play. I was like, wow. I said, man, I never heard Michael Jordan say that. I never heard any Bull player ever say that. If guy was going, we just knew he was going. We kept going to him.
Well, I'll tell you what, from Black Jesus to white douchebag. If you do write that book, Jeff, that's got to be on the jacket on the outside, all right?
Just want to say also lastly that I see Stacey's wearing a White Sox hat. I'm wearing a Pittsburgh Pirates hat. I feel like if we want to go to a Sox Pirates game, you and I would occupy the entire stadium. We'd be the only 2 people watching that game.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. Yeah. This is true, Jeff. Jeff, I'll tell you, this was awesome having you on, man.
Yeah, Stacey has a different hat for every episode, so don't read too much into it. So
do I, actually. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I'm a hat guy. Especially the old time hats. I keep the old time hats. I got a Montreal Expos hat, the red, white, and blue. Yeah, those are sweet, man. All the old timer hats are really cool.
I agree.
Jeff, it was so much fun visiting with you. Again,
My pleasure.
We will continue to bang the drums and blow the trumpets for Winning Time, and hopefully it gets picked up for a 3rd season at HBO Max. We encourage everybody to watch it. One of the best shows out there right now.
Thank you guys so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff. Jeff Pearlman, our guest on Gimme the Hot Sauce. We'll talk a little bit of college football when we come back. We're back on Gimme the Hot Sauce. Hope you enjoyed that interview with Jeff Pearlman. We certainly did. Check out his list of books that he's written. He's written 10 books in all, most of them New York Times bestsellers. You definitely want to check out, really every one of them are very fascinating, and watch the show Winning Time. We really love it here. Let's talk a little college football. How about Texas beating Alabama? And that wasn't just they edged them out. They beat them by 10 in Tuscaloosa, and it really wasn't even that close.
Well, if you go back to last year, They had a big lead last year in Texas and should have won that game. This time they were able to finish it. You could just tell from the very beginning that Texas was going to win that game. They just had their offense look better. Their defense looked good. They're switching to the SEC next season, so this was kind of a test for them. The quarterback, who's a sophomore, Ewers, who did a really good job of passing the ball, getting it around. They did a good job running the ball. I just thought Alabama just looked ordinary. They didn't look like a typical Alabama team that looked dominant on both sides of the ball. I thought they got beat on both sides of the ball. I think they're going to have some problems at quarterback because their quarterback is more of a running quarterback. Doesn't really throw the ball, he locks in on receivers. And I think, looking at that SEC, I don't think anybody's going to beat Georgia.
Yeah, and you were joking about it before the show that Arch Manning was the big
yeah.
recruit that they got, but Ewers is playing so well that Arch Manning's not even get off the bench. You think he'll go in the transfer portal?
Well,
next
listen.
year?
If I was Nick Saban, I was over there talking to the Mannings and saying, "Hey, look, you saw our quarterback. Yeah. Like, this guy, your grandson, come over and play for us right now." But see, even in Texas right now, there's a tough situation because he's listed as the third quarterback. They're going to have to make a decision with him within 2 more games whether to redshirt him or not. He's behind another quarterback. And the quarterback who's starting right now, Ewers, is a sophomore. Unless he decides to go pro, because he does have a redshirt year. If he goes pro, then that shines a different light on the quarterback situation next season. But if you're the Mannings, do you really want to take that chance? Like, what if Ewers doesn't play well towards the end of the season and now his stock goes down and he decides he wants to stay? Now you're sitting here now, it's going to be 2 years that I don't play. So, and Alabama was one of his choices. He was really looking at Alabama. That was one of the places that he wanted to go to. So they're in the need of a quarterback. He might play right away.
That'll be something to watch. And, of course, the prime time show rolls on. Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes take care of business in their home opener against Nebraska. Nebraska's really fallen off the face of the earth. They got a new coach in Matt Rule. But, really, this is all about Deion Sanders, his son Shadur, who had another big passing game and is one of the front runners for the Heisman Trophy.
Listen, America, if you don't believe in Deion Sanders, you better believe in him. I'm telling you. They are the real deal. And everybody's starting to jump on the bandwagon now. They'd already sold out their football field before, everybody jumped on the bandwagon. So ticket sales were already there. But they're fun to watch. They're exciting. You can just tell that they love playing for Deion Sanders. You can't say that a lot of players love to play. Like you see Nick Saban, how he acts on the sideline, his demeanor. He's always mad and yelling and grabbing players by you don't ever see Deion Sanders doing it. He always stays under control. And the thing I like about him, and I think this is why he resonates so well with the kids, is that he treats them not like children. He treats them like men. And he expects things. He holds them to a higher standard. It's not just about football. It's about education. It's about trying to be a better person. And I'll tell you what, if I'm a parent and I'm seeing what he's doing there, oh, my kid might be a Colorado Buffalo next year, baby. He might be there, baby. He might be playing for the prime time. Woo!
And Colorado has a good chance to go 3-0 this weekend when they have their state rival, Colorado State, coming in. And your Sooners with another win.
I'm not a believer yet in the Sooners. Yeah, they had a hard time against SMU this week. They beat the Sisters of the Poor the first week, 73-0. They had the coach crying on the sideline. They got to play somebody. Because they struggled last year. And so they're coming into this year. They got a couple of easy games on the schedule, so they're able to get their confidence. And so it's going to be interesting to see. They play Texas, I think, in week 4. And Texas looks like they're the real deal. Looking at their schedule, Texas can run the table. Oklahoma's their toughest game, and Kansas State. So Oklahoma and Kansas State are their 2 toughest games, but the rest of it, they can run the table and find themselves in the national championship game going into the SEC the next year.
And whispers, Northwestern will not be winless this year. They beat up on the Texas El Paso Miners.
Oh, they have a team? I thought it was just a basketball program.
I think Tim Floyd is coaching the football team.
Yeah, no kidding.
They're all two-way players.
Oh, wow.
No, it was really nice for the program with everything those kids have been through. And they didn't just squeak it out. They had a really nice game. What was it, like 38-7 or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, they got some players, but it's just the attitude is, you're right, it's got to shift a little bit.
And there are only 14,000 fans at Ryan Field. It's going to be tough because they want to build a new stadium there. They had initial approval for it. I don't know where that stands right now, but that could be a tough sell right now.
The money behind it is still pushing for it. So
okay. Well, they've got some donors that can probably take care of it.
Got a lot of donors.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, we wish David Braun and those kids all the success in the world because they've been through a lot with all the off-the-field stuff. You wanted quickly to mention a UFC fight that you enjoyed last night.
Oh, yeah. There was a changing of the guard. Tell them whispers.
Strickland taking out Adesanya.
Sean Strickland didn't see this one coming. Didn't see it coming. Adesanya's been pretty dominant, in the middleweight division. He lost twice to Pereira, who's a stud, who really should be probably a light heavyweight, who just moved up to light heavyweight. And Strickland's a guy that is a fighter. He talks a lot of trash, he gets in your head, but he actually is really good stand-up game. He doesn't want to wrestle. He just wants to get out there and let's just throw hands and the best man wins, which I like to see. And I thought this was tailor-made for Adesanya to go out there. You don't have to worry about anybody trying to take you down because his wrestling defense is okay. But if you beat him, that's where you're going to beat him on the ground. And I thought, standing up, it was going to be a really good fight. And Strickland took it to him. He won a unanimous decision, but it wasn't even close. Wasn't even close at all.
Though, just pinning him up against the cage and just pounding away.
Yeah. He had a good game plan. He had a very good game plan. He tried to stay out of range, and then when he got in crowded Izzy, he basically took his length away from him and took his kicking because Adesanya is a great kickboxer. So when you have a guy who's a great kickboxer, they have the range. They have the kicks, the punches, and he was able to close the distance and fight inside and just outworked him and knocked him on his butt. I thought that was the deciding part of the fight is when he floored him, hit him with a right hook and knocked him down and almost had him out. And then the bell saved him. So changing the guard, baby. UFC starting to get hype now, starting to get hot right now.
Hey, speaking of fighters, did you see the video posted by our good friend Kendall Gill today? He went to the Bears game.
Oh, he ran
out of gas. Who runs out of gas in 2023? Come on now.
And Kendall Gill, you should never run out of gas. They say Kendall said, "Oh, I do this like once every month or something." I'm like, you need to get an electric car. Seriously, Kendall, you got all the money in the world. Get you an electric car. If you're running out of gas every month, get you an electric car.
And his boy came and saved him. Brought a can of gas.
Matter of fact, his boy that came and saved him was at the Cubs game with us, Alex. He does that parlay with him, and he's a big LeBron James fan. So when I was walking out the door after the game, he's like, "Hey, make sure you tell Kendall that his boy said what's up." I said, "Well, what's your name?" He said, "Alex, I do the parlay with him." He said, "I always tell him that LeBron's better than MJ, and that really burns Kendall up." So he said, "When you see him, tell him." So I'm like, "I'll tell him." So now it's funny when I see Kendall, I'm gonna be talking about you need to get an electric car because you run out of gas that much, boy. Come on now.
Maybe it's a thing where it's a challenge. How far can I get in this tank of gas? Because why would you run out of gas? I mean, it'll light up on your dashboard when you're getting dangerously close to the
They usually do. They have some kind of warning.
Yeah.
When you make the money Kendall does, the car tells you to get gas.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you guys,
running out of gas.
Do you guys think there's anything with that McConaughey effect with Texas, and then he goes and sits in Djokovic's box and he wins the U.S. Open?
All right.
All right.
That's what Djokovic said afterwards.
That's a pretty good weekend.
Number
There's no
24.
question about it. Yeah, and the Joker paying tribute to Kobe, I guess he was really close to it. He had the shirt on, and
that was nice, 24.
Yeah,
How about Coco Gauff winning the U.S.
That was
Open,
special,
and then also giving Jimmy Butler credit. Having
Jimmy was there almost every day.
Yeah, he was there almost every day. But she gives him credit for changing her mentality.
Wow.
So yeah, she said it made her tougher, made her be able to go through some adversity because remember she's still a teenager. And so Jimmy, she credited Jimmy being the reason why she's kind of changed in the last 6 months as far as her mentality is concerned. So shout out to Jimmy Butler out there, having Jimmy Butler mentality now.
Yeah, Jimmy Butler got a lot of airtime during the U.S. Open coverage. We saw him almost every night. We're just going to quickly do our What Are We Watching because it's just going to be winning time today in honor of Jeff Pearlman. It's brought to you by our friends at Biggers Mazda. Their sizzling new Elgin location at Randall Road is the biggest Mazda store in Illinois. Biggers is offering a bottle of Stacey's signature hot sauce with first test drives of new or pre-owned vehicles, everything from the coolest SUVs to the stunning Miata. So come on over and join the fun at 2100 Randall Road in Elgin. It's Biggers Mazda. Tell them Stacey sent you, and they'll be happy to give you a free bottle of hot sauce. And speaking of hot sauce, you and Whispers had a little field trip last Thursday. Tell the folks about that.
Yes. We went to the Sutter Home had a tailgate party for the Cubs before the Cubs game. So you got to drink some wine, and we were out there with Kerry Wood. You see right there the picture right there is my man DeAndre. He has a barbecue. He's a chef, but he has a barbecue place over in Evanston. And then there's Kerry Wood right there. What did they call him? Kid K back in the day. Yeah. And then there's Jessica right there. She was a taste tester too, but she didn't taste anything. She had 4 burgers over there. Her burgers looked, they looked like they were when they dropped them off.
Pristine, yeah.
But it was really cool because for every burger, they had a glass of wine that you're supposed to taste with the burger. So they were trying to figure out which wine goes best with whatever burger. So, and the thing about it was it wasn't beef burgers. It was chicken. It was a shrimp burger, which I never had a shrimp burger. And then it was a lamb burger, and it was two different chicken burgers. So we got to taste the wines. There was a white wine, a rosé. There was another white wine, and then a red wine. And by the second burger, you kind of toasted. I'm like, nobody knows how dry I am. Nobody knows. I mean, it was a lot of fun. And then we went over to the rooftops. Mm-hmm. They had they rented out the rooftop. We were able to go over there and meet some people, had a good time. We worked out, we're going to make a trade with Sutter Home. They're going to give us some wine to have on the show. We're going to give them some hot sauce. So it was a pretty eventful night.
Yeah, sounds good. And we're hoping to have Kerry Wood on the show coming up, talking about his great career with the Cubs. And your buddy Mike was taking you around, and folks should contact Windy City whenever they have travel plans.
Yeah, see, let me have that ad right there, Mike. They only gave us one. We were getting really cheap here now. We only get one piece of paper. We got to share the same paper. Wow. Windy City Limousine provides championship service. Making a reservation is so easy. It's a slam dunk, America. Let Windy City break the full court pressure of traffic and get you to your destination in style and on time. Contact Windy at 847-916-9300. That's 847-916-9300. Or go to WindyCityLimos.com and ask for Mike Amaroff. He is the man you want to drive you.
Did Mike bring you here today, or did Eric drive?
No, Mike brought me here. He brought both me and here. My son Eric's here. Eric was supposed to be on the show, but he decided at the last minute he didn't want to be on the show.
Got bumped?
Yeah, no, he didn't get bumped. He's scared. He's like a cat. He's over there shaking. He's like, I was gonna give him his own little segment, Eric's Corner, where he sits in the corner and don't say anything. So he didn't want to do that.
Whispers already got that corner.
Yeah, he's already got it. Yeah, no, Wizards.
Don't steal his act.
But you know what's funny though? It's funny though because this my oldest son doesn't want to be on here. But my other son said, I'll be on there. I'll take Whisper's job. He doesn't bring, what does Whispers bring to the table? And I was like, oh, come on, Garrett. Garrett said that. Garrett said, Whisper just sits there like furniture. I can do that. I got more to bring
146 episodes and people are still asking that question. What does Whispers do?
I can't answer that myself. So there we go.
Did you order the food this time, or did you?
Yeah, did we have food today?
That's the
Sriracha crew. Yeah, last few weeks we come out the show.
Stale pretzels.
Yeah, we're over there eating stale chips. Like I'm sitting over there like, where's the food? Did y'all order food? We're over eating stale chips.
All we had was my salty nuts.
Oh man, now we eating salt. No, I'm not eating nobody's salty. No, you ate salty nuts. Don't be dragging me into that party. Hell to the no. So we got food today, Francisco. We got food today.
We got a party.
Okay, there we go.
Sounds good. It's Monday night, getting ready for the opener. Aaron Rodgers against the Buffalo Bills. That should be a lot of fun. And the funniest thing would be is if he gets his ass kicked after what Jordan Love did yesterday, and let him.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, Mark. No. And listen, we're on this. We're here on Mondays, America.
That's right.
Okay, so we'll be able to come to you and talk about the Bears. Now, hopefully next week it'll be positive.
Let's hope so.
I hope it's positive because I don't want to be doing this every week, talking negative, and because pretty soon we'll be hitting the bottle. About the third game.
I normally don't drink on Monday.
Yeah, neither.
Sutter Home is sending some wine this way. We'll be good.
Yeah. We'll every time they get beat or something, we'll have to take shots. We'll just bring some whiskey in here and start some digits or something. We just start taking shots. By the end of the show, we'll be so fun to watch. We'll be over here drunk, shirts off, running around. Come on, man. Woo!
Yeah, Windy City limos for everyone after that.
You ain't lying.
So, hey, we want to thank our guest today, Mark Grote. Gave us, as we mentioned, the postmortem on opening day for the Bears, and we were thoroughly entertained talking with Jeff Pearlman about Winning Time and all the great books that he's written. So we hope you enjoyed it as well. As Stacey mentioned, we are doing our tapings on Monday, live on YouTube, and those available the next day on the Odyssey app and where all the favorite podcasts are carried. So thanks again for watching and listening. Stacey, time to go.
Drive home safely, Chicago. Beep, beep.
Oh my goodness! It's only preseason, but I'm hyped. Neil thought Jimmy G buckets gets buckets. Oh my goodness! Give me the hot sauce, Neil.